Alright, before we start this video, I just want to say this is the third time I'm recording it now because every time I go to upload it, Justdestiny does something else really stupid.
Stupid, I'm not gonna let you get the chance.
What's up, guys? My name is DeOrio. This is Shot from the Point News, and the biggest story on YouTube right now is Ltcobra versus Justdestiny. But before we get into any details, I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this show right now are commentators yourselves, so I thought I would ask you a question. What would you do if somebody made a video on you? Most of you out there would probably watch the video and then use your own discretion to determine whether maybe the channel was big enough to respond to, or the allegations themselves were big enough to respond to. Maybe you skip the video entirely and just brush it off. Well, that's the level 1 crook way of handling it. We're just sweet summer children in a world that has level 100 bosses like Justdestiny to tell us how to handle an exposed video. Justdestiny's big brain response here was to strike the video down and, this is true, contact a lawyer and have him draft up a cease and desist letter with the threat of a lawsuit to follow. Jesus fucking Christ. Now that probably sounds pretty crazy, right? And most of you guys are probably wondering why someone would do that, why someone would come to that conclusion. But that's not even the worst part. See, I didn't add context into that scenario, and for once, the context actually makes this even worse! And that's because Justdestiny is a YouTube channel that hosts 1.7 million subscribers, and the person he's making a video on, well, that person had under 1,000 before this allegation came out, and, wait, get this, he's 15 years old. That's Ltcobra. Justdestiny threatened a lawsuit to a 15-year-old boy for slander. The criticism that Ltcobra made was to call out Justdestiny for sexually exploiting minors in his thumbnails. That's the allegation. Now, I've been asked by the Shot from the Point legal team to not mention how Destiny could have potentially been sexually exploiting minors. So, for that reason, I'm only going to speak very briefly about how Destiny was sexually exploiting minors. The man who was sexually exploiting minors exploited the minors sexually by using sexual images of those specific minors in question to sexually exploit the minors as seen in these screenshots. He then deleted 8 million views worth of videos to hide the fact that the man who was allegedly sexually exploiting minors was sexually exploiting minors. Or at least that's the allegation. I should probably remind everybody in the audience right now that sexually exploiting anything in your thumbnails is pretty pathetic and genuinely, looked down upon by most of the community. And when you're sexually exploiting children, I have to ask, what kind of audience are you looking for? But let's be fair to Justdestiny here for a second. I didn't poke fun at Justdestiny because I think he's a pedo. I didn't poke fun at him because I think he's even necessarily exploiting young girls. That claim is the weakest part of the entire story. The problem with this is how he responded. If he said, hey guys, look how many people sexually exploited pictures of Danielle Bergoli. She's not 18. Well, then that's another story. Because if the thumbnails of the Dr. Phil content are creepy and nuanced, then so is Dr. Phil's show. There's no written rule that says you can't put a child in your thumbnail. And while I think the thumbnails were gross, I mean, they're attached to equally gross white trash videos that Dr. Phil and friends air on national television. The pushback here is the train wreck of responses that followed. If I was Destiny's PR manager, well, that's how I would have responded to it. I'm sorry I'm not the level 100 boss that thought it would be a great idea to send a fucking legal team in on a minor. I mean, this guy throws shots for a living. This is what he does. He critiques people. He makes commentary. And then the first time that somebody says something to him, he calls a lawyer? What the fuck is wrong with you? But that's not where the story ends. It actually gets more interesting, because after deleting 8 million views worth of videos and being called out by massive influencers like iNabber, Colossal is Crazy, Keemstar, and the former internet personality Ian Miles Chung, go get him, Ian, Justdestiny privated his Twitter and most of his social media accounts, I believe his Instagram too. The next thing we heard was this tweet by Keemstar. Destiny decided he was going to remove the strike and go on drama alert for what I would assume would be an apology. And that's where this story ends today, so I want to move on to the next one. Our next story is Nah, I'm just fucking kidding with you. He didn't do any of that. Let's go back. Suddenly, Justdestiny privates his Twitter again, and later on does an interview where, you guessed it, he plays the victim card.
Yeah, Ltcobra. He made a video, I guess, critiquing, I say slandering, telling people, and using my content to do so, that I'm not a pedophile on the basis of my titles and thumbnails, because there are children in them.
Now, I don't have to tell you how crazy it is that a minor, a literal 15-year-old boy named Ltcobra, pushed a 1.7 million sub YouTuber to needing a support staff from his audience after he tried to pull the old heartstrings right there to let everybody know that he's the victim, that he's the one who's been done wrong in this situation. He needed a support staff from his audience. Can we all just sit and think about how fucking crazy that is after everything I just said? But thankfully, that video, that tweet, is where this story ends. Except it's not, which you really should have seen coming at this point. Justdestiny took to Twitter again this morning and presented his case one final time. This time, however, he did something unforgivable. So unforgivable that Keemstar himself will have to respond to it. Because he didn't just threaten to sue a 15-year-old. He didn't just flag videos for criticism. He didn't just, I don't know, put seductive pictures of, well, allegedly seductive pictures of minors in a thumbnail. No. He broke the golden rule. Justdestiny dropped this YouTuber's DMs. Gasp. Which, by the way, on the internet is about the same as murder. Because if you leak these private DMs, nobody's gonna trust you, kid. Bang. And that's where we're going to leave off on this story. Here's our next segment, which is a brand new segment to the show. Zero context, JF, gotta pay. Here's a clip.
Don't say anything violent.
No, I want to.
What do you have to say?
No, I get seriously. You tried to kill me, okay?
Okay.
And I'm fucking sick that you're fucking me with me. You always follow me everywhere, and
Alright.
and you say you want to make spiritual movement, but you fucking tried to kill me for 3 years, okay? You're a fucking
Okay.
psychopath, man.
T'en as assez dit, maintenant va-t'en. Okay, so the answer to the super chat is that Mama JF mistakes no white guilt for someone who has committed acts of violence against her.
Thanks, JF. Very cool. Now it's time for Rapid Fire. In Rapid Fire news, J.K. Rowling says Harry Potter's penis does not work. That's right, the wizard you've come to know and love can't get it up. And the only way to cure that is by going to something on J.K. Rowling's website. Apparently she sells the same stuff, the male vitality, that Alex Jones sells. Gucci removes a sweater that appears to be blackface, and Keem's dog, Buddy, is still blind, still deaf, and still ready to go.
Look at that! What a warrior!
That's it for the news today. My name's Nicholas DeOrio. You're watching Shot from the Point News. Check out the Twitter down below and... One, and you eat one, now water Hombre, здесь не заложил.
La